You enjoying smacking my boys around, stranger?
Well, it's not quite the party you and Blister's booty gonna have. Smacking it up in that cozy jail.
Blister's booty? Oh no, I ain't going back in the cell with him. Oh no, I got dignity. I ain't going back, never going back. I got dignity.
Huh? You do not want to know.
Blow the pieces, boys!
Oddworld is an odd franchise. It's set in an odd world, inhabited by odd creatures, doing odd shit all the time. And I think I've hit my quota for saying odd in this video. Buckle up, because it's only gonna get worse from here. Founded in the 90s, Oddworld Inhabitants is an insanely ambitious studio helmed by Lorne Lanning. Lanning and his cohorts sought to create a persistent universe, launching this with their first title, Abe's Odyssey. And they continued this with follow-up releases like the pseudo-sequel Abe's Exodus, and the Xbox-exclusive Munch's Odyssey. Honestly, the history of the studio is long and definitely warrants its own video, but Inhabitants are an enduring team that have survived well into the apocalyptic hellscape of modern game development, a feat that so many devs from the 90s have been unable to maintain. But there have been bumps along the way. In 2005, Stranger's Wrath released exclusively on the original Xbox to favorable reviews, but abysmal sales. It was published by Electronic Arts. Trying to please them is like trying to help your Uncle Jack off a horse. It did eventually make its way onto other platforms starting in 2010, and has been consistently re-released over and over and over and over. Look, it's readily available, and that's what's important here. So you can crack out your phone, the Vita, or the fucking Ouya if you're really desperate. But we're doing the PC version for this one, which was one of the first ports in 2010, and eventually got the obligatory HD treatment in 2012. So hopefully it plays nice on modern hardware. And it does, mostly. There's no futzing with INI files or modernizing mods, but I wouldn't try to play this higher than 1080. It doesn't like that. There are a few graphical glitches here and there, and overall it is stable and requires very little maintenance to get running. Traditionally, Oddworld games had you playing as Abe, a Modakan slave, saving his fellow enslaved brethren, fighting back against the capitalist eco-polluting villains, the Gluckins. And clumsily so. But OWI had to do things differently for their fourth outing. They had to get odder. Stranger. They had to get Stranger. The game is called Stranger's Wrath. You are a bounty hunter. We never get a name for our hero, rather we are known simply as Stranger. We don't get a lot from him, but we do learn that the Stranger isn't just bagging bounties for shits and giggles. He's in desperate need of some mysterious surgery, the details of which remain unknown to us for now. But it's expensive, $20,000 expensive. And insurance doesn't exist yet in Mudos, but Republicans do. We're set loose in the wild western edge of Mudos. The underdeveloped land has become a hive for outlaws, who are all too happy to take advantage of the decaying homesteads that exist out this far. This is a sharp contrast to previous Oddworld titles, which were characterized by their pollution-spewing labyrinths of metal. Here in the West, it is untamed, but all the same, it is violent. The Stranger is not an archetypical hero, nor is he a reluctant white hat cowboy. In fact, he's relatively ambivalent to morality. Whether it's killing or capturing outlaws, it means nothing to him. It's a means to an end. Hell, he doesn't even mind robbing the local populace blind. He hardly cares about anything. For him, it's all about survival and cold, hard moolah. Even when his call to action takes a dramatic turn, he still remains detached. He is a hero of convenience, not virtue. We also briefly see in the opening that the natives of the land are struggling to feed themselves and the surrounding area is noticeably dried up. Surely it has nothing to do with any dams built by evil megacorporations that have set up shop. Probably. So we're off hunting, taking on the available bounties in the area, alive or dead, to earn the money. At least for the first half of the game. It has an unbelievably sharp tone shift midway through. Is it a Western? Yes, but it also borrows heavily from Southern Gothic genres as well. Bayous, dense forest biomes. It's not all desert and red rock mesas. But you'll see plenty of dusty gorges before eventually transitioning into some really different environments. A lot of the areas are dried out rivers and gorges, indicative of the dam's effect, while we also see several zones of abandoned mining and foresting operations. Eventually, these transition into war-torn, snowy valleys and steel-beamed warehouse labyrinths, stuff more characteristic of older Oddworld games. It's certainly filtering a lot of this through the look and feel of Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns, in particular the Fistful of Dollars trilogy. And this is noticeably reflected in Stranger himself. His dusty, muted color palette and demure attitude are a direct allusion to Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name. Now, while it isn't the most technically advanced looking game, it is a strikingly beautiful one at times. Strong lighting, limited color grading, and some really good direction make some areas just absolutely pop. Enemies are the most consistent in terms of design. Each of the big outlaws you're hunting all have a unique personality, but not always a unique look, which is reflected in their cronies who remain very much the stock variants throughout. And while there are some standouts, the majority of them are hardly memorable. They tend to be permutations of each other. They'll bleed together pretty quickly, but several of these did get a good laugh out of me.
Now, don't none of you idiots let no one on the farm, you hear me?
Ain't that a double negative?
I heard that!
Besides outlaws, the most common NPCs you'll be interacting with are the crusty, unwashed asses of the local population, the clackers. And that's with a Z, because they're radical, which in actuality, they are huge assholes and colossal dipshits. I mean, just look at these yokels.
Ah, baby, the tail feathers on Susie Ray makes me tingle all over. Last time I got any tail was when my finger poked through the toilet paper.
If you're short on cash, you can just bully them all you want, and they do nothing except ask you to be nice.
All right, stranger, we coming out now, and hey, Lola, if you're still out there, don't forget to meet me at the bird bath after lunch.
OWI has always prided itself on its crude, bizarre, alien art direction. It's charming and off the wall. Nothing feels out of place, but they're never afraid to try something out there or different. It's unique. Nothing really looks like Oddworld. It allows itself to be odd. You'll be hearing lots of atmospheric tracks in this game, a lot of which skirt along the lines of Morricone influence without being too direct with it. There's also quite a bit of electronic drones going on in there, mixing with more metallic synthesizers. And all of this is juxtaposed by more driving, frenetic beats for high-energy moments. Initially, I did not feel very strongly about the music, but after a few closer listens and a little more time playing, I've grown to appreciate it a bit more. I'm still not blown away by a lot of it, but there's a lot to love here. Though I would say I could have used like 20% more cowboy twang. So while it plays to its strengths, it's unobtrusive and it sits in the background most of the time. Now, what doesn't sit in the background is voice acting.
Excuse me. I need to know where the bounty store is.
Oh, a bounty store? I don't know about a bounty store, but I like cornbread.
All townsfolk are voiced by the same guy. Oh, and they are plenty talkative, always willing to extend a helping hand. So if you ever get lost, just give them a holler and they'll point you in the right direction.
Pardon me. You know anything about this explosives McGee?
I seen his boys use the elevator in town. You might sneak up on him if you took it.
And it's generally just him, but it's been pitch shifted up or down. It's incredibly funny and incredibly annoying. At the absolute worst, though, it sounds like a herd of crazy frogs. Outside of that, every major important character is voiced by Lorne Lanning himself. The stranger, the doctor, the villain, it's all him. And this is a pretty common practice for inhabitants, with Lanning having also voiced Abe and, well, basically everyone else in the entire franchise ever. In addition to these two, 4 other voice actors are credited, generally for outlaws or a few of the other townsfolk. So when we joke about pulling people out of the office to do voices, that isn't really a joke here.
Looking for a Eugenius. You knows where he is?
Oddworld's trademark crass, juvenile, and very dark comedy is present. It didn't earn that T for T rating for nothing.
The password is...
Every weapon has a distinct sound and personality, with some being fairly chatty with you. Since they all have a unique profile to them, you'll always know exactly what you're using without looking. These sounds also help out in the gameplay department, since they're good at keying you into where ammo collection spots are. For ambiance, it's dusty, mostly wind blowing and dust being kicked up, but I don't know what else you're really supposed to do with that. Most deserts are just empty, rocky stretches of land. In the more verdant sections, you'll hear stuff like bugs or birds chirping, maybe water rushing in a small creek. It's fairly atmospheric, but it's not the best I've ever heard, not even at the time of its release. And I guess that's really all there is to say about the sound in this game. It wasn't exactly mind-blowing, but it also wasn't like cutting edge at the time. Let's talk about how we play the game now. It's first and third person, the best and sometimes the worst of both worlds, which you'll learn intimately since you'll be hot-swapping between the two throughout the entire game. In third person, you have a greater view of the arenas and better mobility, while first person mode plays very much like a normal first person shooter. Movement in third person feels good, but it can be floaty. You have your conventional traversal controls like running, jumping, double jumping, as well as a light attack and a stronger attack. In this mode, Stranger can also run on all fours, and this carries a hefty bit of momentum. I mean, you can absolutely launch him if you get going fast enough, or run him directly into every fucking object in your path. Primary issue with third person is that Stranger can be a little awkward to control. He doesn't quite snap turn like you'd want him to, and this can easily get you stuck and exposed. Double jumping can also be tricky since it doesn't give you much extra height, but rather it maintains your momentum of the first jump. It's a little stiff, but it's nothing too egregious. First person feels a little tighter, but you'll be lacking most of the movement options, forcing you to play more for cover than agility. Your melee options are also limited and replaced with a singular punch, which you can upgrade to really just fucking clobber these idiots. And you'll want to be swapping between the two frequently to suit the situation, and you can pull off some pretty fun takedowns doing so. But what you lack in mobility in first person, you make up for in firepower. But we aren't using guns to hunt these guys. This is Oddworld. We can't do things conventionally. Instead, you're using a crossbow loaded with live ammunition, the most defining feature of the game. All ammo is living creatures in the wilderness, each with their own utility and personality. And you have a good spread of both lethal and non-lethal choices, as well as distractions and traps for more stealthy approaches. Things like the chipmunk, and please stop looking at me like that. Anyways, you can use them to lure enemies away and get the drop on them. From here, you can combo that with fuzzles to basically set up a group of sentient bear traps, or maybe you hit them with the Bullomite to nab a quiet bounty. Alive, as opposed to, Or, why waste your time grabbing one guy at a time? Hit them with the stunk, snatch them up while they're all puking their guts out like freshmen, or toss an endangered frag grenade. Throughout the game, most of these get a nice upgrade. Bullomites now turn into a silk shotgun blast, allowing you to web up more than a single person at a time. Thud slugs don't just give concussions, they atomize the entire body. And the pot of greed isn't the only thing that gives the big suck. Interaction between the different ammo types is a high point. You're never limited as to what you can or should do, even more so when you get the upgraded versions. You're free to approach the situation however you want. Loud and proud, you can do that. Quick and quiet, you can do that too. But I wouldn't call this a stealth game by any stretch of the imagination. It's bare bones, but that's fine because that's all it really needs to be. And sometimes discretion isn't the most fun option. Really, the only thing holding back the live ammo system is swapping your different types. It's cumbersome and there's no hotkeys to alleviate this. If this were a more complex mechanic, I think it would benefit from like a loadout, a quick swap, or maybe a radial menu. So while it is tedious, it's not unmanageable. It's just more annoying in the grand scheme since it actively halts the pace of the game, forcing you to stop, open a menu, scroll through, make your choice, and look, you get it. But by the end of the game, I nestled into some favorite combos, and I was flying through the selections. And swap, you will, since not all outlaws are created equal.
Mama loves me the best out of all her sons.
A lot of them are small and squishy, capable of being snagged pretty quickly, but other outlaws are bigger kids and require a few more jolts from the sentient car battery than toddlers do to be knocked out. They also equip themselves with guns that can make a close-up frontal assault a difficult approach, and frankly, they can all go to hell. Mortar launchers keep you moving or hunkering in cover, snipers are incredibly accurate and outrunning them is tough to do, so you either have to focus them down or play more effectively to cover. But the game is pretty smart about who and what they throw at you at any given time. It can be extremely hectic when they start throwing massive gangs at you, especially in the later half of the game, but it's nothing ever too terribly overwhelming. Overall, it's not a blistering experience, and mistakes are bound to happen.
Yeah, that's your ass, sissy boy!
While games in the mid-2000s were pivoting towards regenerating jelly health, the trend had not fully taken hold yet. Stranger's Wrath opted to go for a middle ground approach. You have a health bar, but you also have a stamina bar. The stamina bar, though, doesn't have anything to do with movement like it would in a modern-day game, but rather it's used as a pseudo-health kit. Stranger literally shakes off the damage, returning any lost health, permitting you have enough stamina to do so. You're able to correct mistakes or cheap shots, but you aren't going to be face tanking stuff. And like classic Monster Hunter, you have to physically stop moving to heal, so you're also opening yourself up to take even more damage if you aren't careful. I love this detail so much. A lesser game would have made it a quick button press and the health instantly comes back or regenerates slowly over time. But here, inhabitants took the opportunity to enrich the game, to give flavor to the setting and the character. They've made the act of healing ooze with personality. It may be a small thing, but it's stuff like this that makes games so memorable and special.
Dead or alive, your ass is coming with me.
Boss fights are unfortunately a mixed bag. There's only 10 in the whole game. Some are very interesting, unique fights, while others are very short and uninteresting. The more interesting ones are generally mechanic-heavy ones with some kind of gimmick you have to play into. Unfortunately, most of the time you're just going to be barraging them with thud slugs or zapping them with the zap fly until their own stamina bars are depleted. Or you're just going to fill them with bees like the kid from My Girl.
That's a bagging them good.
Obviously, bagging outlaws alive is worth more than dead, but most likely you'll end up having more money than you can possibly spend throughout the entire game. So you use it to purchase upgrades or ammo, but buying ammo is useless since it's present basically everywhere. And even if you did do that, you're probably still going to be sitting in the thousands of dollars before the game does away with the economy entirely. So you are incentivized to play non-lethally, but why would you? Outside of the money, you aren't penalized for it. This is a situation where a morality or a wanted system would have been a nice addition. But as it stands, it's just your own empathy holding you back. And the last half of the game I think would be unbelievably difficult to do without killing anyone. The driving force of the narrative is trivialized by, well, the narrative. But the gameplay loop is fun and satisfying. I just wish we maybe had gotten a little bit more of it. Speaking of narratives, that seems as good a segue as any to talk about it. For the majority of the plot, Stranger travels between the different towns to deal with the outlaws terrorizing the locals. Not much to really write about here. You're hunting bounties to pay for the operation. It's incredibly straightforward. If you're interested in this game at all, now is going to be the spoiler talk, so jump here if you want to avoid those. Alright, we good? Let's carry on. However, eventually the Stranger does learn about an incredibly tantalizing bounty. A steef. What is a steef? They're like a weird human deer horse hybrid thing. We don't really get a clear view of what they look like, just statues and cave drawings to go off. But as of now, they are considered nearly extinct. I wonder... Sensing an opportunity, Stranger contacts Secto, the CEO of Secto Springs. You know, the guy running the dam, to make an offer on this Steve's head. Secto is interested, but he is also immediately suspicious, so in response, he sets a bounty out on Stranger. After some piddling around, the Stranger is captured, and he is revealed to be a Steve himself. I am sure you are all very shocked by this revelation. Now at this point, this would beg the question for me, what the hell was the plan? Oddworld protagonists are not characteristically known for their intelligence, but more so for their tenacity. Even then, this seems like an incredibly harebrained plan. Like, was he going to trick Secto out of the money, or was there just some other factor to this that I didn't consider? Regardless, the plan does not work at all. But it's here that we see that insane tone shift in the game. Everything changes for the remainder of it. No longer are we hunting bounties. No longer are we moving from town to town. We are now in full action mode here. So the native grubs free the Stranger, and they outfit him with traditional Steve gear. And with the hopes of life-saving bottom surgery now shattered, Stranger has little choice but to take the fight to Secto. We're doing a revenge story now. So now we spend the bulk of this half moving further up the river, dismantling Secto's operations along the way, and just overall causing as much mayhem as we can. It's here that the pot of greed no longer nets you money, but now mulches people's bodies into ammo. We do divert briefly to help the grubs repel an assault in a section that is remarkably like something out of D-Day. Now, arriving at the dam proper, it is an absolute madhouse. Soldiers and machinery everywhere. And it becomes clear that this isn't just about controlling the flow of water, but also an excuse to just experiment and produce some really nasty shit. So we battle our way through the dam before finally confronting Secto in his office. The final fight with him is nothing special or really interesting. You basically fight 2 tripods in one of the more annoying encounters in the game before eventually facing off against Secto himself. Though I use that loosely since it's mostly just hiding behind a rock and destroying generators. Like I said, it's not terribly interesting for a final encounter. With Secto defeated, the dam crumbles and the water rushes forward, washing away all of the soldiers and destroying all of the Clackers' settlements and returning life to the valley. And it's here that we learn the truth. Secto himself was only the head, and the body he was controlling was that of a Steve. The old Steve dying asks one last question before passing.
Is the water free? Yeah, all free.
It's a bittersweet ending. The water does indeed flow, the Steve have returned, if only one of them, and the land is healing. And we also see that Secto remains alive and returns to parts unknown, and thus brings a close to Stranger's Wrath. So there you have it. Despite some shortcomings, I truly do love Stranger's Wrath top to bottom. It's digestible, being only a serviceable 8-hour-long adventure that at a lot of points can feel like 2 very short games shoved together rather than a cohesive whole. So ultimately, I'm left wanting more Stranger's Wrath. But I don't necessarily want a remake or even a reimagining of it. This was the last fully original title from Oddworld inhabitants, and I'm worried that they've put themselves in a dangerous position where now it seems like all they're doing is just remaking their old games, when I really wish they would explore some of their underdeveloped ideas. And there's tons of them to parse through. The Brutal Ballad of Fangus Clot, for example, is a concept pitch that's been floating around the internet for years. This would have served as a spiritual sequel to Stranger's Wrath and would be a good opportunity to reintroduce Stranger's mechanics, but giving us a new character and environment to play in and expand on what we know from Stranger. But for now, with the state of the gaming industry, this does not seem very likely, and Stranger's Wrath is all we have. It's a fantastic game that I love dearly, and at $10, it's an absolute steal and an easy recommend for a solid weekend. Maybe you'll consider checking it out, but for now, that's all from me. Thanks for watching. Come back next time for something more stressful?